Hello everyone, today you're rocking with Redbeard, and now that we've covered all the reworking for Norsca, what about future content? DLC, FLC, Legendary Lords, all the same. For there are so many more characters that Norsca could have. We need bare minimum a fourth Legendary Lord in my opinion, but I wouldn't be content until we got Beorg BEARSTRUCK for Mercenaries and Skinwalkers, Mona Mim for a Famir faction, and Lord Morkin the Black Iron Reaver to push Allegiance of the Gods into the stratosphere. As far as covering missing playstyles, Sale really only covers the Kurgan tribes and cavalry, though I think he was the best choice of the four for now. Check my previous Norsca video top right where I talk about Sale and all of the Norsca's missing units, and the Norscan reworking. So how could we get all three remaining, even if at this time seemingly unlikely? Perhaps Beorg could come as an FLC faction alongside a Dogs of War race pack. Perhaps Mona Mim could come in a single lord pack, similar to how Neferata is all but confirmed to be coming early next year. Then if we get a big End Times DLC that adds one lord to every race, Norsca gets Morkin. Beorg BEARSTRUCK, son of Bran, is a mighty champion of chaos, mercenary and chieftain of the Ursfjordings, known also as the Tribe of the Bear, or as they are more commonly known by those they slaughter, the Bearmen of Urslo, who roam the world as dogs of war for hire. Within the northern savage tribal holdings of Ursfjord and the chaotic, frozen wasteland of Norsca resides the great thatched hall of Urslo. Built of strong timbers, it is within this mighty feast hall that Beorg BEARSTRUCK and his fierce marauders dwell, when not off raiding and pillaging the lands of the Empire and beyond. Like most of the tribes of Norsca, Beorg and his kinsmen are deeply affected by the power of chaos, seeing such as the favor of their unholy masters. These blessings have caused the Ursfjordings to become as much beast as men, and all bear the unholy marks of the wear to some extent, gaining massive rending claws, jagged teeth, and brutal ursine faces. Consumed by unholy bloodlust, these chaos-tainted madmen have sown terror across 1,000 battlefields for the esteem of their gods and the sheer love of battle. When Beorg snapped the necks of Ulstau and Grail, twin sons of Huron, Jarl of the tribe of the Wolf, the gods saw fit to bestow upon the marauder their considerable favor. As Beorg threw himself against his enemies, his back arched and split while his ribs cracked and turned in upon themselves inside his body, and his face twisted into a feral bestial muzzle. The gift of the wear was upon him this day, the gift of the dark gods to the Norscan people. He was now the chosen of the gods and lord amongst his people. He was now BEARSTRUCK. So, I've mentioned Beorg, Mona, and Morkin more than a few times, but now it's time to actually devil the details. Let's start with Beorg, because I think he may be the most imminent as far as explaining Maneater's contracts. Give him that exact mechanic. Norskans are prominent within the population of Warhammer's mercenary companies and coalitions. I've seen people speculate him as a legendary hero, particularly so he could be used for Dogs of War, Norsca, and possibly Kislev. And this could work with his lore, working for any army except elves who shun the taint of chaos. For skin wolves and skin bears are technically mutants, though a very specific one, often related to a certain tribe's practices. But as a legendary lord with his own faction, he checks two boxes that no other character can. Box 1, a Norscan mercenary faction. Box 2, a Norscan skinwalker faction. If we make him a legendary hero, there will be no turning back, and those boxes will be forever unchecked. As a brief aside, I've made a list of potential Norscan legendary heroes, or perhaps pseudo-legendary lords. just to illustrate there are plenty of options. I'll return to this. So, everything else you need to know about our Werebear Lord. Many may not know this, but Beorg and his kin are said to be direct descendants of the great bear god Urslo. You know, the one the Kislevites worship. Which means he's also a distant relative of the first Tsar, Boris Ursa, and his bear banner bearer, Earl the Young, who could be a pseudo-legendary hero exclusive to Beorg's faction, who might just be a skin bearer hero, but that depends how they interpret the lore. As far as 5th edition Dogs of War is concerned, Beorg is the only BEARSTRUCK, meaning full werebear, and his tribe consists of bear-stricken, or half-bears. The older art reflects this, where they wield shield and axe, but have fur and claws. Half may have bear heads, half may still wear helmets and other armor depending on the mutations. Later, though, we would see Beorg as a full werebear, much more the ilk of how we see skin wolves in Total War. Maybe they could have 2 units to reflect this that may be exclusive to Beorg's faction. Bearmen would function similarly to Forsaken, decently armored, decently hard-hitting, mid-tier infantry. Skin bears would be like an upgrade to skin wolves. Fast-moving but bigger and hard-hitting, similar to, say, Minotaurs or Sacred Croxagores. Skin bear generic lords would offset skin wolf heroes for this faction's armies, though the lore may not support any skin bear lords outside of Beorg himself. So, we give Beorg a mercenary mechanic, but what about a skinwalker mechanic? Simple, give him something like Drika's Beasts or Rakarth's Monster Pens, a chance to gain recruitment of beasts upon his journey. Manticores and mammoths and hawks fit Norskins. Admittedly, an elemental bear is a potentially questionable fit lore-wise, but thematically is top-notch. Though again, remember, Beorg is a direct descendant of Urson, so it may fit him even better than Kislev. We also need to be able to run feral ice wolves and bears, along with our skin walkers. Ice wolves we can already recruit as an Norscan. For going, we get this mechanic. I think you would need to make feral ice bears recruitable for Beorg's faction, probably through his settlement buildings. Additionally, when we get a Dogs of War race pack, I might also give Beorg's faction some units or mechanics from that race's roster. Finally, let's talk Beorg in battle. He would probably feel most similar to Torok's the Brass Bull. Not quite as armored and tanky, but quite fast for such a hard-hitting monstrous lord. Can tear apart blobs of infantry just as easily as most other monsters. For magic items, his Bearfang Talisman may give ward save or physical resistance. His Bear Banner, carried by Earl the Young, as aforementioned, may give his Bearmen units the Berserk rule, greatly increasing their physical resistance and melee stats, but also may cause them to rampage. The Bearmen's growling battle cry is noted, if not given rules. Perhaps Beorg has a bound ability that essentially is a bear roar, luring nearby enemy leadership and melee stats whilst buffing the same stats for himself and nearby bearmen, but also sends him into a rampage. Final point for Beorg is, can he transform similar to the Cathayan dragons? There are all sorts of were creatures in Warhammer lore, such as were-bears, boars, wolves, cats, and even rats. And no, those aren't one and the same as Skaven. The line between them and beastmen can be muddled, though in the case of the bearmen or the tigermen of Ind, most were creatures can shapeshift form between full human, full animal, or the hybrid form they are most famous for. Beastmen are born mutated and do not shapeshift. Bearmen are said to grow their mutations and draw power from chaos, different from the power source of other were creatures. If Beorg can shapeshift, his hybrid form is as I explained before. Perhaps his human form is a potential monster hunter generic hero. So, human Beorg could be a solid anti-large melee fighter that may also have either a bound missile attack, similar to Golg Maneater, a standard javelin or throwing axe missile attack, like our Marauder hunters, or both. Which, between those two forms, would make him a very versatile, unique character. What about a third pure animal form, though? A Kislevite-sized bear would probably be not as strong as his hybrid form, but perhaps would be his fastest form? Or perhaps it's seen as him fully channeling his ancestor, the bear god Urslo, and is the ultimate of his forms, and can only be used after Beorg has reached a certain amount of a kill threshold or something to that effect. This form would be gargantuan, standing taller than his hybrid form, even on all fours. Not quite as titanic as an elemental bear, but may have the same ice breath attack. The transformation aspect is purely speculative, though, as I explained, and I would only expect his hybrid form. Now, since Norscan Reavers and Whalers are primarily Norscan units, that would be mercenaries and dogs of war armies, and since Biporos 1933 pointed out I didn't talk about them in my units video, at least enough, I will sneak them in here. Besides Bearmen, Beorg may also buff these units. They both may have the Strider, Wayfarer, or Vanguard deployment rules to represent they live to sail, fight, and fish. Mid-tier infantry, Whalers would be like a more elite version of Marauder Javelins, with a net ability similar to Nasty Skulkers, Hobgoblin Cutthroats, or Eshin Triads. Reavers would be mid to high tier infantry, which would act like a hybrid between Marauder Berserkers and Marauder Hunters with throwing axes. Lastly, let's look at Beorg's start position. His lawful home is, of course, Urslo, which would nestle him somewhere in the Goramendi Mountains province in the eastern portion of Norsca. Though, since I think this might be a better start position for Lord Mortkin, there are some other places we can discuss. As a Dogs of War character, he is very well known for having operated within the Border Princes, which could be a wonderful new start position for a Norsca character. But I do think that area is getting a little bit crowded, and I have thought for a while that that area needs a bit more expansion on the map. As you can see on this image, just buffing out a few more provinces in the entire Southern Realms area. I think especially if we're ever going to get Dogs of War or Southern Realms as a race pack, then we need more land in this area fleshed out. Then there is Nagaroth, which is definitely known for tribesmen of the north, if not Norskans. So I think one faction of Norsca being up there would be great, and again, Beorg is a mercenary, so he really could be anywhere. Then there is Skeggi, which could be a great start position for any Norscan, but I think there's really only one character that would fit there, which is King Adela of the Thousand Mouths. Either her or maybe Anaconda of the Amazons, and that's just assuming if we ever get either of those two characters. So, just any Norscan going here could potentially work. And that will be a wrap for today's video about Beorg BEARSTRUCK. I still need to finish my Norscan series, so I will be returning to Mona, Mim, and Lord Mortkin the Black Iron Reaver at some point, though I may take a break from my Norscan series to explore some other topics, and, maybe let the DLC marinate, let that release, see how that's feeling, and then decide how I want to talk about the Norscan content that should come after, and that, of course, is Mona and Mortkin. If you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and or share, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.